They stuck me in the ambulance, drove super slow. They couldn't go over any bumps because that could move me too much. That hospital did some more scans, so they did an MRI, CT, and I think x-rays as well. I stayed there for I think it was 2 nights. They're like, we want you to walk around and stuff. I had gotten up to go to the bathroom, and then on my way back to bed, that's when I passed out and freaked the nurses out. The next day, I was able to walk around just fine. Went up and down some stairs even, and they're like, oh, I think you're good to go home. So they slapped a brace on, and they're like, we looked at your scans and your neck looks stable. So you just need to be careful for 6 weeks and then you should be good to go. But make sure you go to a follow-up appointment once you go home to Arizona. We drove all the way from Pocatello to Arizona that day. For 12 days, I just walked around. I was living my life. I was bending over. I was doing all sorts of stuff. I went to the follow-up appointment with a neurosurgeon. So he was looking at the scans. He's like, why did they send you home? Why are you walking around right now? It does not look stable. And if you move wrong at all, you could die like on the spot or become paralyzed. And so he's like, you need to go to the hospital. So I went to the hospital, had more scans, waited seriously like from 3:30 in the afternoon until 10:30 at night just to go in for the scans. Didn't get the results back until the next day in the afternoon. And they're like, so your C5 vertebrae is definitely not stable and you need to fuse it to your C6 now. Your C1, it's not stable and we might need to do surgery on it. Understand, if we do surgery on it, that means fusing the C1 to your occipital bone, which is the base of your skull. And that means you lose pretty much all range of motion. At first they were thinking, let's not do that, just do the C5, which is an emergency. And then they came back later in the day, we should probably do this now because we don't want to risk you moving wrong and then like losing your life. My neurosurgeon was explaining, I talked to the team of surgeons. They were all asking, she's walking around? How's she walking around for 12 days without surgery? They were just amazed. She explained that most people with those fractures don't even make it to surgery. Usually they die. The fact that I've been living with these fractures just in a neck brace, it's just been miraculous. So they said, do you want to risk it or do you want to just be safe, get the surgery and lose all range of motion? Like, you can't look up, look down, look side to side. You know, I thought about it and I'm like, I mean, losing range of motion or possibly dying. Not really a hard choice. Not a fun choice, but not hard. I remember just sitting in the hospital and I told them, okay, like, I trust you, especially if you've talked to like 6 other surgeons. And my last surgeon was recommending that as well. The one that had first recommended I go to the hospital. And she's like, hey. And so she left. And then she came back yet again later and she's like, I've just been thinking a ton about your situation. This is a very unique situation. Again, people don't really have this choice to make usually. But she said, because I'm so young and so healthy, she does not want me to lose that motion. And so she had talked to some more surgeons, the spinal surgeons. She said they were 50-50. So half of them were like, yeah, don't risk it, just do the surgery. And then the other half are like, well, no, that's not great. That's not a great life to live. And so they came up with a really cool solution. And that was to have the surgery on my C5 and then have another CT scan and x-ray afterwards to see if my C1 is stable still. And if it's stable, then put the neck brace back on and check up every 2 weeks to see if it's still stable. And if it's stable throughout that time and it ends up fusing itself to my occipital bone, that means I lose up to 40% range of motion instead of like 90 or 100%. The option was either naturally fuse it or surgically. Better option is naturally, right? And just to back up to when they had talked about fusing it, so the second time she came to visit me, she gave me that option and I said, yeah, let's do it. And I had to send everyone out of my room, and that's when I just cried. It was this real feeling. It was such a life-changing choice. You know, I was bummed that I had to make that choice, but I was also so grateful that like I'm still here and that I have such caring and incredible people surrounding me to help me through this. When they gave me that option to check up every 2 weeks, like, yeah, that'd be great. So I had the surgery on my C5 the next day. They just went in to my neck in the front and moved like my esophagus and everything and fused my C5 to C6. So the day after my accident, when I'm with my family, they got me sick. It was so bad. So I got this really bad cold and I like got congested in my chest. And remember, I have a broken sternum and a broken rib. And so it was just inflamed and hurting so bad. And then coughing and sneezing on top of that was the worst. So with this surgery, honestly, it was the cold that was worse than the surgery, for sure. I recovered pretty quickly. After that, we had the scans and they first did the CT and it looked like my spinal cord hadn't been touched and neither did that artery or the nerve. And then my C1 looked stable and my spine just went right back into alignment and it was just incredible. You know, I look back and like throughout this whole experience, I've had so many friends and family just like reaching out and praying for me and everything, and there is no doubt in my mind that those prayers have made a difference. I have felt so blessed to have so many people in my corner that really genuinely care. So anyways, checked the CT scan and then they checked, I think it was more x-rays. Like, yeah, it's stable. Okay, you're good to go home. So I went home the day after. So now I am back in this brace for another 6 to 8 weeks. Next week, I have my follow-up appointment to see how it's going and I have to be super careful. So this is the hard part, is I'm feeling fine. I'm even off my meds. Like, I really don't have any pain, really. It's a little bit sore sometimes, but not bad. I can't bend over. I shouldn't be moving my head this much. I can't twist or turn. I have to lay down a very specific way. I can't pick things up, lift above 5 pounds. I can't walk more than 30 minutes. I can't drive. So pretty much I just lay here all day. That's some miracles. Since I had blacked out from my accident, I don't remember pretty much any of it, and I didn't know exactly what happened. But the guy that I was right next to when I was driving, he's the one that had stopped and uncovered the snow for me. He was just so amazing. Like, I am so grateful for him. And I feel so bad because I'm sure that was super traumatic for him to watch. So what had happened from his perspective was driving, and I guess the wind had caught or had hit me and my left front wheel caught the snow on the side of the road. And that just sucked me off the road. So I'm sliding for 30 or 40 feet, launch into the air, spin, land, spin, land, spin, land on my side, and then flip over onto the top, right? And he said it was super fast and violent. And he was just super grateful that my parents weren't there to watch because he said it was pretty traumatic. And he thought for sure that when he would come up and find me, I'd be dead. Considering that, I had my stuff in my car that from when I was moving, and that included some kitchen knives in their kitchen block. When the tow company had flipped my car back over, my brother saw that the kitchen knives were all in my driver's seat. They were all just laying there. But it's fascinating because, you know, all those times that my car spun, they hadn't even left the block. When the tow company flipped it over, that's when they fell onto my seat. I think that's a huge miracle. Another miracle is that when I was about to leave and my parents were leaving from my apartment, I was sticking a full-length mirror into my backseat on top of my stuff, and my dad's like, if you get in an accident, I don't want that taking your head off. So he pulled it out and stuck it in their car, which super grateful that he did. Another thing, like I said before, I had the window rolled up and I ended up halfway out of it, but I didn't have any glass like cuts or anything. I just had some bruises. It was pretty crazy. And when my brothers went back to grab my stuff from the car, they saw the window tint and it was just flapping. It didn't even have any glass, and they had to like scoop up the snow and wait for it to melt and see what was left, and that was the glass. Like, it was powder. It's just one thing after another where it's very obvious that God's hand was there and that he protected me. If anything, I hope it just helps people realize that like God is there for us and he is watching out for us. Doesn't always turn out so well, situations like this, but he is very aware of us. I just feel so strongly that this was supposed to happen, and I feel so blessed. That is my story. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch.